story that you won't find in most Bibles, but is one of the most epic and, frankly, terrifying prequels ever told. We're talking about the Book of Enoch and a tale of divine rebellion that changes everything you thought you knew. So, you know the story of the Great Flood, right? The one where God hits the reset button on a world corrupted by human sin? Well, the Book of Enoch asks a pretty provocative question. What if the corruption didn't start with us down here on Earth? What if it rained down from heaven? To get this story, you've got to picture the world at the very beginning. The Book of Enoch describes it as, well, perfect. It was like a giant cosmic clock. The sun knew its job, the moon knew its path, the seasons never missed a beat. Everything just worked. A world of absolute perfect harmony. But there's always a but, right? Even in this perfect world, a shadow was lurking, a prophecy delivered by Enoch himself that spoke of a truly terrible judgment to come. And here's the really wild part. This prophecy, it wasn't for his time. Enoch was told this was for a distant, remote generation, a future day of tribulation. So think about that for a second. The seeds for this world-altering event were planted long, long before the sins that would make it happen even took place. Okay, so let's get to the main event. The moment that perfect cosmic clock, well, it breaks. This is where it all goes wrong. This is the story of the angels who fell. Now, these weren't just any angels. These were the Watchers. Their one job was to, watch over humanity. But they broke the number one rule of their job. They interfered. They didn't just look. They saw the daughters of men and they lusted. And this was no accident. This was a premeditated conspiracy. Their leader, an angel named Samjaza, was basically worried he'd be the only one to take the heat for this great sin. So he got all 200 of them to swear a binding oath together. This was organized, deliberate rebellion on a cosmic scale. So what happens when divine beings and mortal women break all the rules? Well, the result was immediate, and it was absolutely monstrous. They gave birth to giants, the Nephilim. The text says their height was 3,000 ells. Now, an ell is an ancient measurement, but let's just say it translates to unimaginably huge. These weren't just big dudes, they were a violation of creation itself, abominations walking the earth. And their appetites were as monstrous as their size. First, they devoured all of humanity's food and resources. When that ran out, they started devouring people. And when that wasn't enough, they turned on each other. The earth basically became a slaughterhouse. But the corruption wasn't just physical. The fallen Watchers also brought what you might call gifts, forbidden knowledge. One angel, Azazel, taught humanity how to make weapons, swords, shields, all of it. Others taught sorcery, astrology, even cosmetics. This knowledge wasn't a gift. It was a poison that unleashed much godlessness upon the world. The chaos and the suffering became so immense, so overwhelming, that the cries of dying humanity literally ripped through the veil and reached the gates of heaven. And in heaven, those cries were heard loud and clear. It was time for a divine response. The archangels, we're talking the big four, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, looked down and saw the earth just filled with lawlessness and blood. They basically became the prosecution, taking the case against the fallen Watchers straight to the top. And the judgment that came down was incredibly specific, poetic even. Azazel, the one who taught war and corruption, he gets bound hand and foot and thrown into total darkness. Samzaja, the ringleader, he's bound in the valleys of the earth for 70 generations. And the giants? Their punishment was to be turned against each other in a final, bloody war of annihilation. But even that wasn't enough to clean up the mess. The corruption ran too deep. The evil spirits of the giants would still roam the earth. So to truly wipe the slate clean, a final, catastrophic solution was needed. The Great Flood, a total reset to destroy all the unrighteousness the Watchers had created. And this is where the man himself, Enoch, steps back onto center stage. And he gets handed one of the most terrifying jobs you can possibly imagine. God chooses Enoch, a mortal man, remember, to be his messenger. His task?
to go find these incredibly powerful, rebellious divine beings and personally inform them that they are eternally damned. Can you imagine delivering that message? Enoch doesn't pull any punches. He goes right to them and lays it out. Your sentence is final. There will be no peace for you, no forgiveness. Not now, not ever. And these beings, who once stood in heaven, were suddenly seized with fear. They actually begged Enoch, the mortal man, to write a petition for mercy on their behalf. But it was too late. Enoch gets a vision where he's told their petition is denied. The verdict is absolute. The case is closed. So the story doesn't just end there, with punishment. It ends with a vision of the two paths that this whole rebellion created, one for the righteous and one for the ungodly. And the outcome is laid out, plain as day. On one side, you have the elect, the righteous who held on. Their path ends in peace, mercy, and light. But for those who followed the path of the watchers, nothing but a curse. This isn't just a punishment. It's the creation of two separate eternal destinies. So, after all the terror, all the destruction, the book's core message is really one of consequence. It ends on this powerful promise. For those who can get through the tribulation and stay righteous, the reward is nothing less than a restored world, a world filled with light and joy and peace. So what do we take away from all this? Is it just a wild, forgotten myth about angel wars and giant cannibals? Or is it something more? A timeless warning, maybe, about the danger of forbidden knowledge and the terrible price we pay for breaking the